understand.
The answer on this one should be a negative 188. Answer on this one should be 11. Answer on this one should be 5. The winning number should be 2. We had 13 out of 20, which is 65%. Here are the homework answers. Number 1 is plus or minus 3i, and you must have the plus or minus. 2 is plus or minus 6i. 3 is plus or minus 9i. 4 is plus or minus 12i. 5 is plus or minus 25i. 6 is plus or minus 2i square root of 3. 7 is plus or minus 2i square root of 15. 8 is plus or minus 4i square root of 5. 9 is plus or minus 6 square root of 2. I'm missing an I, so it should be here and there, plus or minus 6i square root of 2. 10 is plus or minus 2i square root of 10. Here are the results. Second period. First one was Davis. She has 2 homework passes and a free test. Number 2 was Sexton. 2 homework passes and a free test, and I'm just doing the top 10. Third was Howard. 2 homework passes and a free test. And then we go to 4, Applegate M, 2 homework passes. And number 5 is Smith, 2 homework passes. 6 is Dietrich, 2 homework passes. 7 is Collett, 2 homework passes. 8 is Gaffney, 2 homework passes. 9 is Rayburn, 2 homework passes. And 10 is Huey, 2 homework passes. Today's Common Core objective. The complex number system, it'll be the same stuff, just a little different as last Friday. So extend polynomial identities to the complex numbers. For example, rewrite x squared plus 4 as x plus 2i, x minus 2i. Here's the first example. X squared plus 108. Step 1 is to rewrite it as x squared minus a negative 108. And once you do that, you have a difference of 2 squares. You have a perfect square here, and technically that's something we're going to call a perfect square here, although it is not, but we can treat it as if it is. And then from there we can factor out the square root of x squared is x. A difference of 2 squares means you have alternating signs, plus and minus. And then you need the square root of a negative 108 and a square root of a negative 108. Take out the negative, a square root of 1, which is going to become an I. And now you end up with an answer of plus or minus I square root of 108. But you must simplify it. If you do not on the test, it's half off. If you don't simplify it and it's right. If it's just completely wrong, you lose all the points. you need a list of perfect squares. 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, and on up to about 100 should do it. Remember that you have to cut 108 in half to come up with 54, and then test the perfect squares less than 54, which would be 49, 36, 25, 16, 9, and 4, and start backwards. You will eventually get to the square root of 36, which will go into 108 3 times. And the square root of 36 is 6, so 6i square root of 3 is the final answer. Example 2. X squared plus 98 equals 0. What do I do first? Make what negative? So I would have x squared plus a negative 98?
No, subtract it.
Subtract a negative 98. Now what do I do? Factor out?
Yeah.
So we can factor. What's the square root of x squared?
X.
And then what do I put in?
And alternate signs.
Alternate the signs. Now what? Square root of negative 98 in each one. Now what do I do? So we take out an I from each one. I meant to make that minus. I can't erase it. Okay, now what?
Simplify your square root.
Before that,
Answer
answer
it.
it.
Plus or minus I square root of 8.
After I have that, then what do I do? We have to simplify. What's the highest perfect square that goes into 98? 49. So we have plus or minus I. Square root of 49 times square root of what? 2. So our final answer is plus or minus 7i square root of 2. If it were a minus in the middle, then you would have x plus 8, x minus 8, and the answer would simply be plus or minus 8 if it were a perfect square. If it were x squared minus 50, you could do x plus the square root of 50 and x minus the square root of 50 and come up with plus or minus square root of 50 for the preliminary answer, but then you could simplify it as square root of 25 square root of 2, so your answer would be plus or minus 5 square root of 2. On the practice problem, you should have x squared minus a negative 125 equals 0. So it's x plus the square root of a negative 125 and then x minus the square root of a negative 25. Now take out the I from each one. And your preliminary answer is plus or minus I square root of 125, but the highest perfect square that comes out of 125 is 25, and you would multiply that by 5. So your answer is 5i square root of 5. Bonus problem goes to the first 8. This is like the one we just did on the white screen. This should be x plus 14, x minus 14, which means the answer is plus or minus 14. Here's another bonus. This one goes to the first 8 people. This bonus problem, the answer should be plus or minus 9. You should have x squared minus a negative 63, and then it's going to be x plus the square root of negative 63, x minus the square root of negative 63, and then take out an I here, and then an I here, your preliminary answer should be plus or minus I square root of 63. The highest perfect square that comes out of 63 is going to be 9. And you multiply that by 7. So your answer is 3I square root of 7. This goes to the first 6 people. The solution for this bonus should be plus or minus 25. If you leave out the plus or minus, then it'll be off. 5 extra credit points for these. So you can't lose anything. They don't factor into the total points for today. This one is a factorable quadratic equation. So what you're looking for are two numbers that multiply to get negative 63 and add to get negative 2. Two numbers that multiply to get negative 63 and add to get negative 2 are positive 7 and negative 9. But to get the answer, you must reverse these. So it should be negative 7, 9.